All right, guys, Sam back with you here. We're midday on Friday, March 2nd, and as we are doing now, we put the vote out amongst members to see which coins they would like to see reviewed in video. And number 2 today was Enigma to Bitcoin. Now, we've done this coin before, so we're going to focus over here on the right side rather than digging through and qualifying that 5-wave. Just real quick before I get too far into it, just a reminder that we have just recently launched our website here. So if you're interested, you can come over to TradeDevils.com. One of the things that I get asked about a lot actually is one-on-one coaching. So we've built that in here, so that's an option. You can come over here and book it. You could do it in 30-minute intervals. So if you want an hour, you can just book 2 of them. But so we've got both small group and one-on-one coaching. So if that's of interest to you, that'll be noted in the text underneath the video. Okay, so back to Enigma. So here it is. Now this Enigma, so we'll go over here and we'll just a reminder of what a strong project this is. It's only been around for 5 months, and we're already at, we're going to call it 200 million in market cap. But look at this scoring here, right? So we're well over 50 benchmark that I like to use, but 81 here. Very, very, very strong in the development community. So that would be an encouraging sign if you're interested in this project. And these are all sort of, I would call these launch points for if you're interested in doing some fundamental research. That's a good place to start. So if we come back over here and look at the chart, well, we don't need to get too much into what happened there. We can call that a completed 5-wave structure. So is it a 1? Well, considering this is where we started, and here's the ICO. Hard to argue with that as a 1. I mean, it certainly sets up that way. So, I don't know what else we would call it, but we can take from swing low to swing high, get it right on there, and you can see where we've gone. So right into the golden zone. So here's the first reaction at the 50. Into the golden zone, we fall over again. So we're tapping here. And, interestingly, this is pretty much, I mean, damn near every alt chart that you pull up right now, it looks this way. It's a very consistent pattern, and it's a difficult pattern to trade, and there's been a lot of frustration amongst alt traders. When do we peak here? That's January 10th, and then just this long grind lower here where these false attempts. It looks like maybe we're going to go, and we just continue to fall over. So, it's the alt winter. Are we eventually going to get started here and get back on our way up towards new highs? If we are, well, we certainly have a lot of upside. This certainly plays as a potential 2. Now, can we dig in and get a good pivot there? Can we qualify that pivot? Well, it's not easy. So we look here, and you'd have to look at that and say that's an AB, right? And we come down for the C. That would have been the easy one, ABC. Here we'd start up. You can see it was a contender there as a potential 1-wave, but it fails. So how might we count this and qualify it in our efforts to try and organize it? Well, it's pretty hard to do anything other than an AB there. That would be your C. So since we continue going here and we continue to be corrective, the obvious candidate here would be a WXY, which is what we're seeing across so much of the alt space. So we get the W wave, it's the ABC. The X wave is the correction that connects the 2 ABCs. And then potentially we have down here our Y wave here. So X wave correcting this move here. So it's a simple concept, just WXY, just connecting 2 ABCs. So if we lock that in here, we know that was a technical pivot. That's a contender for our W. So one thing that, people, I get a lot of comments of people telling me how my Elliott wave counting is, I don't have it right, they have it right. So some people say, well, what about A, B, C, D, E? Well, that's highly unlikely to be found in a 2nd wave, much more likely to be found in a 4th. So that's why chart after chart after chart where we're seeing this pattern, I continue to label it as a WXY because the ABCDE is just not a contender for a 2nd wave. So that said, so here we sit, right? We've got this bunch. Now, can we get a technical low? I'm sitting here on a 2-hour. So we're going to have to dig into that, because if that's an ABC that's completed, X wave here, is that an AB and we're going into the C? Well, that's not unreasonable as a way to count that. So we'd have to dig in on that on the 1 hour. So if I zoom in, can we get a good pivot down here? I don't love this pattern already, but if this is going to play as if this is going to be, see, the problem, so the reason I say that right off the bat is the time frame here. So you look at the symmetry here between the A and the B, and then the length of the C. I don't love that. That doesn't mean I wouldn't trade it, but that's the first thing I don't love about it. And then if we pull out again, just the length of time of the first ABC, well, you know, it's this part that's a little, you know, it gives you pause to say, you know, you'd like it to have more symmetry than we have here, but nonetheless, we'll go dig in there and see if we can get it. So I know members are looking for the long side here. Does that make sense? Well, if we're going to get a good low down here, you could make the case that screw the Elliott wave. We're in the golden zone. Let's be a buyer. You know, that's not unreasonable. I'm not. You know, I use Elliott wave, but as I will often say, it's optional. It's not mandatory. Right? You could just make the case that we're in the golden zone. That's where you buy it. We're already getting a little reaction, so grip it and rip it. There you go. But if we're going to dig in from an Elliott perspective, well, you might have to go here 1, 2, 3. Looks like we get an ABC into a forward. We'd be coming down here. Now that degree, of course, is not what we'd use. So we can go down to sub minuet and see if that plays. So could that be a 1, 2, 3, 4? That's a contender. We got to move this stuff down here a little bit. So could that play as a finishing 5? Well, you know, you got to kind of qualify it and say, well, could that work? You know, the symmetry there is not bad. So I would take the 2 to the 4 and just check that. Anything I can work with there. Well, there's the 38. Here's the algo target from that swing down here. So we're going to be a little shy of that, possibly. Or if we get through the 65, well, we've got a confluence zone down here. Oscillator, any help here? Well, you know, with divergence, it's just moving sideways here. So here's the strength of the move down here. All right, now we're just going sideways. So yeah, certainly there's divergence. We can see a little divergence here. RSI gets to 30 here, not quite as much. So you can make a case there. Anything else that I can see? Not, you know, it's not great. You could put a channel on this from the 2 to the 4. So yeah, you don't have great geometry there, but a break above this. So if you're looking to get long, so one thought is, well, you're just a buyer, and I wouldn't go overly heavy here, but you're a buyer off of the golden zone. You could simply wait for confirmation and get a move out of this. This would be the safer way to do it, and then just take the first retracement, knowing that you've got a good pivot to work with. If we're going to come down here, well, then you could get on the other side of the 65. So you'd be on the assumption that you'd have the 5 in, but if you wanted to give it a little cushion because the risk would be so low, you could get on the other side of the 65. That's not unreasonable. You know, can you get out of this in a 5 wave? That would make me more confident rather than trying to pick the low here. I mean, yes, we are in a technical zone, but I'd like to see that confirm a little bit more. If I pull out again, see, there are no major targets that I can use here because they'd all be coming up short. So if I just take swing low to swing high, you know, we get a little zone down here, so that would be the major swing. You know, all of this is below the 65. So if we go to this one, you know, that takes us even further. Here's the 50. So swing high to swing low up to the 50. That target down here would be on the other side of the 786, so that means we're heading lower. If I work from this one to check this, well, we get to and through the 786 by a couple of ticks. You know, but then again, that puts us down here much lower. Now we're getting all of these contenders are below the 65. So I wouldn't be overly aggressive here on trying to pick that turn. Same thing for most of the alts. There's just no reason to try and pick the bottom. Right? It's, you know, trading mentor of mine used to always tell me, you know, because I was always, my first thought was, well, I want to try and pick the bottom because the risk is so much lower. But one of his sayings was, buyers at lows create new lows, and sellers at highs create new highs. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind, because I never forgot that, because I've been burned many a time trying to pick that low. You know, if you let this thing confirm and start to move away from this, there will be a retracement that can be bought. right? After you've now gone through, if we dug down to a smaller time frame, after you've gone through that series of potentially a new trend being established. So if we could get a little push, a little retracement, a push, so you get a series of higher highs and higher lows, then you can make a stronger case that the low is in, rather than just try and pick the bottom. You make that case that the low is in because you've got the ingredients for a new trend to be underway. So we don't quite have that yet. You know, you had this, whatever happened there, crazy spike. Down we go. So is that a clean, here we're on the hourly, is that a clean move into the fifth? You know, not really. I suppose you could get a diagonal in there, but it's not gorgeous. But you know, technically it's there. There's your A, B, C, and your fourth. I mean, it's there. It's there. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. You could make the case for me. You know, and I'm bullish in this long term. You know, I'd want to see it come out of that. I'd want to see it get a little traction out of this, and then I'd be more inclined to take the first retracement. You know, why force something that's not as pretty? I mean, again, if you love this project, well, by all means, have at it. You know, you're in a reasonable spot to be a buyer. If you're just looking to be a buy and hold, well, it's certainly on sale relative to where it's been. You're certainly at an area of demonstrated support where, you know, market gets cheap enough down here and people buy it. Algos, you know, lots of support there. So it's trading technically. You've got great fundamentals. You've got great metrics. And over here, you know, we're at 81 in the development community. I mean, you can make the case there just to be a buy and hold there. But if you want to try and swing trade it, where you're going to have a risk reward scenario that makes sense, well, that would be the safer way to approach it. Let it show its hand. Let it push out of here. Take the first retracement. Now, we've seen it do that before, right? So here was the reaction out of the golden zone. Here was the buy. You made a little money if you took that. Had the ingredients for a 1, 2, 3, maybe a diagonal. It fails up here, rolls over, so that becomes an AB. That's always the risk, you know, when you're trading the 3. When you're trading the 3 to the 4, looking for the 5th, there's always the possibility that turns into an ABC. It's just the reality of it. So there you go. I mean, it's a great project long term. As a swing trader, no reason to force it. It's just not that pretty. Let it show its hand. All right, guys.